I joked you'd make a cute wife. The alien queen froze and said, I accept. Evan Hale never planned to be remembered in galactic history. He was not a soldier, not a hero, and not someone who liked standing in large halls filled with powerful beings. He was just a human diplomat, sent because he knew how to stay calm and speak clearly. Humans had learned long ago that shouting never helped when the galaxy already believed them to be reckless. The palace of the Xyrelian Empire was vast beyond anything Evan had seen on Earth. The floor was smooth crystal stone that reflected the ceiling lights like still water. Tall pillars rose like frozen trees, glowing softly with alien symbols carved into them. Every step Evan took echoed, reminding him how small he was in this place. At the far end of the hall sat Queen Sailthera. She was taller than any human, her posture straight and unbending. Her skin shimmered in deep shades of silver and violet, and her eyes were bright, sharp, and ancient. She wore no crown. She did not need one. Every being in the hall knew who ruled. Around her stood members of the High Court, commanders, scholars, and nobles from many worlds. Some had armor, some wore flowing robes, and others had bodies so different from Evan's that he could barely tell where their faces were. All of them watched the humans with open judgment. Humans were new to this level of diplomacy. Many species still remembered them as loud, emotional, and unpredictable. Evan knew this meeting mattered. One wrong move could damage years of effort. The talks lasted hours. Trade routes, border safety, shared technology rules. Evan spoke when needed and stayed quiet when silence was smarter. He noticed something unusual, though. The Queen listened closely whenever he spoke, not with anger or boredom but with focus. Her eyes followed him, not the louder delegates. Evan tried not to think about it. When the session finally ended, the hall relaxed slightly. Guards shifted their stance. Some nobles whispered among themselves. The human delegation prepared to leave, relieved that nothing had gone wrong. Evan exhaled softly and rubbed the back of his neck. His shoulders ached from standing so straight for so long. He leaned slightly toward another human diplomat and tried to lighten the mood, the way humans often did when stress finally faded. Under his breath, barely louder than a whisper, he said, "Well, at least she didn't vaporize us. Honestly, for a terrifying alien queen, she'd make a cute wife." He meant it as a joke, a quiet one, a human joke, nothing more. The air changed instantly. The soft hum of the palace lights seemed to stop. Conversations died in mid-sentence. Even the guards froze, their weapons held but unmoving. Evan felt it before he understood it. The silence was too deep, too complete. He slowly looked up. Queen Sailthera was staring directly at him, not with anger, not with shock, with absolute stillness. The alien translators floating near the ceiling glowed brighter as they processed the words. Symbols flashed. Ancient linguistic codes activated, codes no one had used in centuries. Evan's heart sank. This is bad, he thought. This is very bad. The queen rose from her throne. Every being in the hall bowed immediately. Evan reacted a second late, his mind racing. He lowered his head, hoping that whatever mistake he had made could still be ignored. Then the queen spoke. Her voice was calm, clear, and carried easily across the vast hall. "I accept." The words echoed like thunder. Evan's head snapped up before he could stop himself. His face drained of color. "I what?" he said before remembering where he was. Gasps rippled through the court. Some nobles stepped back. Others looked at each other in disbelief. A few stared at Evan as if he had just challenged the stars themselves. The human delegation turned toward him in horror. The chief translator unit hovered closer to the queen, its light flickering urgently. "Your Majesty," it said carefully, "the human statement may have been informal speech. Their species often uses." The words were spoken, the queen replied. They were heard, they were clear. She turned her gaze fully toward Evan. He felt as if the weight of an entire planet rested on his chest. "Human Evan Hale," she said, Do you deny the intent of your words? Evan swallowed. His instincts screamed at him to apologize, to back away, to say it was nothing. But something stopped him. He remembered why humans were here, not to beg, not to lie, but to be honest. I did not mean it as a formal request, he said slowly. It was a joke, a poor one. I meant no disrespect. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Around them, ancient systems awakened. Court historians whispered in panic. Old laws, long ignored, began flashing across data screens. The high scholar of the court stepped forward, his voice unsteady. Your Majesty, the binding words. They recognize sincerity without fear or intent to dominate. The human statement meets the conditions. Murmurs spread like fire. Evan felt dizzy. Binding words, he asked quietly. The Queen did not look away from him. In my people's earliest age, she said, a ruler could only be challenged or chosen by one who spoke without command, without fear, and without desire for power. She paused. You spoke without knowing my law, without seeking my throne, without fear. That was true. Evan had not thought at all. That doesn't mean I should, Evan began. The law does not ask what should be, the Queen said, only what is. One of the nobles slammed a staff against the floor. This is madness, a human. Their kind is unstable. Another hissed, this could change everything. The Queen raised one hand. Silence returned instantly. I have accepted, she said, and I will not break the law that holds my crown. She looked down at Evan, not as a ruler looking at a subject, but as someone measuring another being. You are under my protection now, human Evan Hale. The words struck harder than any threat. The human delegation stared at him in shock. One of them whispered, Evan, what did you do? Evan didn't answer. He couldn't. His thoughts spun wildly. He had crossed half the galaxy to represent humanity, and now, with one careless joke, he had stepped into a bond older than empires. The Queen turned back to her court. Prepare the chambers. Notify the council worlds. The binding has been acknowledged. As guards moved and alarms quietly sounded across the palace, Evan stood frozen, his heart pounding. He had meant to make people laugh. Instead, he had changed his life, and possibly the fate of the galaxy. And somewhere deep in Queen Salthira's eyes, something stirred that had not awakened in centuries. Curiosity. The palace did not sleep after the Queen's words. Light paths ignited across the walls, glowing symbols moving like slow rivers of history waking from rest. Evan Hale walked through the corridors under quiet guard, his steps unsure, his thoughts heavy. He was not treated like a prisoner. The guards kept a respectful distance. Their movements were careful, almost formal. That made it worse. Evan would have preferred anger, fear, something familiar. Instead, he was led to a wide chamber with tall windows opening to the stars. Soft light filled the room. The air was calm and warm, adjusted for human comfort without him asking. This is temporary residence, one guard said politely. You are safe here, safe. Evan let out a breath he had been holding for hours. As soon as the door closed, his legs weakened. He sat on the edge of the bed, running both hands through his hair. What did I do? He whispered. On Earth, a joke was a joke, a way to release tension. Here, words had weight older than human history. He remembered the Queen's eyes, not angry, not proud, but searching. A soft chime sounded. Evan looked up. A glowing figure formed near the wall, the palace translator system shifting into a more personal mode. Human Evan Hale, it said. The High Council has requested clarification of your intent. My intent, Evan sighed. I didn't have one. I wasn't trying to gain power. I wasn't trying to insult anyone. That aligns with the binding words, the system replied. Intent without desire is considered pure. Evan frowned. Pure enough to trap me, the system paused. The law does not consider it a trap. It considers it balance. Evan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Humans always thought laws were written by people. Here, laws felt like living things. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange. Then the door opened again. Queen Salthera entered alone. Evan stood so fast the chair behind him fell over. "Your Majesty," he said quickly, bowing deeper than before. "Remain," she said gently. That word surprised him. Gently. She stepped into the room, her presence filling it without effort. Up close, Evan noticed details he had missed before. Fine patterns along her arms like starlight veins, the slow, steady rhythm of her breathing. She did not glow with power. She carried it quietly. "I did not come as your ruler," she said. "I came as one bound by law to speak with you." Evan straightened, hands at his sides. "I'm sorry," he said, "for the trouble, for the confusion." She tilted her head slightly. "You apologize even though you did not act with harm." "That's kind of what humans do," Evan replied. "We mess up, then try to own it." She studied him again. "Many in my court believe you planned this." Evan let out a short laugh, then stopped, realizing how it might sound. "If I had planned this, I would be the smartest human who ever lived. I promise you I was just trying to calm myself." "Why?" she asked. "Because your hall is terrifying," he answered honestly, "and you are intense." A few nearby lights flickered. Evan stiffened, afraid he had insulted her again, but the queen made a soft sound. Almost a breath of amusement. "No one has ever said that to my face," she said. "That's probably because they're afraid," Evan replied. "Are you afraid now?" He thought for a moment. "Yes, but I'm still talking." The queen walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "That is what the law noticed," she said. "You spoke without fear controlling you. My people lost that trait long ago." Evan joined her at a respectful distance. "On Earth, fear never really goes away," he said. "We just learn to move with it." She turned slightly. "The council wishes to annul the binding." Evan's heart jumped. "They can do that." "They wish to," she said, "but they cannot without consequence. The law is older than my throne. Breaking it would weaken the empire's legitimacy." "So I'm a problem," Evan said quietly. "You are a question," she corrected. A long silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just heavy. "Why did you accept?" Evan asked at last. "You could have ignored it, pretended you didn't hear." Her eyes met his. "Because I did hear. And because for the first time in many cycles the law spoke clearly." She paused. "And because I was curious." That word again. Evan nodded slowly. "Then we're both stuck with curiosity." A chime echoed through the chamber. "The High Council convenes," announced a distant voice. "The human presence is required." Evan swallowed. "That sounds bad." "It sounds necessary," the queen said. The council chamber was smaller than the main hall but more tense. Representatives from many worlds filled the space. Their expressions ranged from anger to fear to sharp interest. Evan stood alone at the center. The queen took her seat above, her posture calm. A tall alien with dark armor spoke first. "This human cannot be allowed to remain bound. His species is unstable, emotional." Evan clenched his fists but stayed silent. Another voice followed. "And yet his words triggered the law. That has not happened in generations." A third added, "If we remove him, we admit our laws are weak." The room filled with arguing voices. Finally, the queen raised her hand. "Human Evan Hale," she said, "do you seek power through this bond?" "No," Evan answered immediately. "Do you seek my throne?" "No." "Do you seek advantage for your species?" Evan hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I seek safety for my people, but not by taking from others." Whispers spread. The queen nodded. "Then speak freely. What would you choose if choice were given?" Evan took a deep breath. Every eye was on him. "I would choose not to harm your empire," he said, "and not to shame my own. If staying causes chaos, I would leave. If staying can help build trust, I would stay, but I won't lie or pretend to be something I'm not." Silence followed. The high scholar leaned forward. "That answer itself aligns with the binding." The armored alien clicked in frustration. "This is absurd. One human changes everything." Evan looked up, his voice steady. "Humans don't change things by force," he said. "We change them by showing up even when we're scared." The queen watched him closely. At last she spoke. "The bond stands," she declared. "But it will not be one of command or ownership. It will be observation." She looked at Evan. "You will remain, you will learn, and we will see if humanity truly carries what the law recognized." Relief and fear crashed together inside Evan. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said quietly. As the council slowly accepted the ruling, one truth became clear across the chamber. The human had not tried to rise above them. And that frightened them more than any ambition ever could. Evan Hale learned quickly that staying alive in the Xyrelian Empire did not mean staying comfortable. Days passed inside the palace, but none felt quiet. Every corridor carried watching eyes. Every meeting carried hidden tests. He was no longer just a guest. He was a question the entire empire was trying to answer. He was given lessons, not orders. Scholars taught him Xyrelian history, their laws, and the meaning behind the binding words. Evan listened carefully. He asked questions when he did not understand. He admitted ignorance instead of pretending knowledge. That alone unsettled many of the instructors. Xyrelians valued certainty. Humans, Evan realized, valued honesty about uncertainty. Queen Sailthera observed from a distance at first. She did not interfere. She did not defend him openly. She wanted to see who he was when no one guided him. Evan felt her presence even when she was not in the room. It was not pressure. It was attention. Outside the palace, rumors spread across the empire. Some worlds feared the humans' influence. Others grew curious. A few began quietly studying human culture, searching for the strange quality that allowed a soft-spoken species to stand among giants. Inside the palace, challenges came. One morning, Evan was summoned before a group of nobles. They spoke politely, but their words were sharp. They asked about human conflicts, human mistakes, and human failures. They expected defense or pride. Evan gave them neither. "We fail often," he said. "We argue, we make wrong choices, but we learn, and when we don't, we suffer the cost." One noble leaned forward. "Why should an empire respect a species that stumbles so much?" Evan met the noble's gaze. "Because we stand back up. And because we don't pretend we are perfect." The room fell silent. Another test came later, quieter but heavier. Evan was shown a proposal from a border world. The planet wanted protection but demanded resources in return. The deal favored the Empire strongly. The nobles waited for Evan to approve it, to choose advantage. He read it slowly. "This will hurt them," he said. "They're asking for safety because they're afraid. If we take too much, we become another threat." Some nobles frowned. Others looked uneasy. The deal was revised. Word spread. Humans did not always choose the strongest path. They chose the fairest one they could see. Queen Sailthera finally called Evan to walk with her in the garden halls. The space was open and filled with glowing plants that reacted to movement. Light followed them like soft fireflies. "You change outcomes without issuing commands," she said. "I just say what I think is right," Evan replied. "People decide what to do with it." "In my empire," she said, "power flows downward." "In mine," Evan said, "it spreads outward." She considered this. "Many believe you weaken me," she said. "Do you feel weaker?" Evan asked carefully. She stopped walking and faced him. "No." That answer surprised them both. As cycles passed, something shifted. Council sessions grew less hostile. Scholars debated human philosophy instead of dismissing it. Even guards began speaking to Evan, asking about Earth, about families, about why humans smiled so easily. The Queen noticed all of it. One evening, an urgent message arrived. A distant system faced collapse due to failing energy networks. The Council prepared a formal response, slow and careful. Evan read the report and felt his chest tighten. "We can help faster," he said. "Humans have smaller systems designed for emergencies." A commander scoffed. "Human technology is primitive." "It's flexible," Evan replied. "That matters in a crisis." The Queen looked at him. "You would send your people?" "Yes," Evan said. "No reward required," the Council argued. but the Queen approved a limited human response. The mission succeeded. Lives were stabilized, systems restored, no control taken, no tribute demanded. Across the empire, something unfamiliar spread: trust. Not everyone welcomed it. A group of nobles gathered in secret. They believed the human threatened tradition. They planned to force a choice. During a public council, one of them challenged Evan directly. "If your kind is so noble," the noble said, "then choose. Stay here bound by law or return home and leave our empire unchanged." The chamber tensed. Evan looked toward the Queen. She said nothing. This choice had to be his. He took a breath. "I didn't come here to change you," he said, "and I didn't come to abandon my people. If I must leave to protect this empire from itself, I will. But know this: change doesn't come from me. It comes from what you choose to keep after I'm gone." Silence followed. The noble had expected fear, not acceptance. The Queen stood. "The human has spoken with clarity," she said, "and clarity is strength." The challenge failed. Later that night, Evan stood again by the window of his chamber. Stars burned quietly beyond the glass. He felt tired but steady. The door opened softly. Queen Salthera entered. "You were willing to leave," she said. "Yes," Evan replied. "Because staying should never be a cage." She stepped closer. "The law binds words, it does not bind hearts." He looked at her, surprised. "You have shown my people something," she continued. "That strength can listen. That leadership can share weight." Evan smiled faintly. "Humans figured out long ago that carrying everything alone breaks you." She studied him in silence. "For the first time," she said, "I wonder what kind of empire we could become." Evan met her gaze. "One where no one rules alone." Outside the palace, news spread across the stars. Not of conquest, not of war, but of an empire that paused, and a human who never tried to stand above anyone, yet somehow helped everyone stand taller. The galaxy watched closely, because something rare was happening. Power was changing its shape. The final council session was unlike any before it. News of the humans' influence had reached every corner of the empire. Worlds that had never spoken in council sent observers. Old rivals sat side by side, watching in silence. Evan Hale stood once more at the center of the chamber. This time he did not feel small. He still felt human, uncertain, imperfect, and very aware that he did not belong to this world. But he also felt steady. He had spoken honestly every step of the way, and whatever happened next would not erase that. Queen Salthera sat upon her throne, calm as the stars behind her. Yet those who knew her well sensed the difference. Her gaze moved more slowly now, thoughtfully. Not just as a ruler, but as someone weighing the future. The high scholar addressed the council. "The binding words have stood unbroken. The human has not sought control, nor has he weakened the throne. Instead, we observe change spreading without force." A noble rose. "And that is exactly the danger. Empires fall not only to enemies but to soft ideals." Murmurs followed. Evan raised his hand slightly. The room noticed. "If I may speak," he said. The Queen nodded. "I won't pretend humans have all the answers," Evan said. "We don't, we argue. We fail, sometimes badly, but we learn something important early on." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "When power stops listening, it breaks. Not right away, slowly, quietly, until one day it can't hear anything but itself." The chamber was silent. "I never asked to be part of your law," Evan continued. "But now that I am, I'll say this clearly. I don't want to rule. I don't want a crown. I want a future where no single voice has to carry everything alone." Some council members looked uneasy. Others leaned forward. A commander spoke sharply. "And what of the Queen? What of tradition?" Evan turned toward Queen Salthera. "That choice isn't mine," he said. "It never was." All eyes moved to the throne. The Queen stood. Her presence filled the chamber, but her voice was calm. "For centuries," she said, "this empire believed strength meant distance, that a ruler must stand apart to remain unbroken." She stepped down from the throne, one step at a time. "I have learned otherwise," gasped Spread. "The human did not command me," she continued. "He did not challenge me. He stood beside the weight and asked how it could be carried together." She looked at Evan. The binding words were never meant to grant power. They were meant to reveal balance. The high scholar bowed deeply. The queen turned back to the council. "I will not dissolve the throne, but I will no longer stand alone upon it." A wave of quiet shock moved through the chamber. She raised her hand. "From this cycle forward, the empire will be guided not only by crown, but by counsel strengthened through shared voice." Some protested, others nodded slowly. "And the human?" a noble demanded. Queen Salthera met Evan's eyes. "He will choose," she said. Evan felt every gaze return to him. His heart beat hard, but he did not feel fear, only clarity. He stepped forward. "I will return to Earth," he said gently, "because my people need to see what is possible, but I will not leave this empire." Confusion rippled. "I will remain a bridge," Evan explained. "Not a ruler, not a symbol, just a human willing to speak honestly when invited." Silence followed. Then the queen spoke again, her voice softer now. "The binding is fulfilled," she said, "not through ownership, but through understanding." She extended her hand. Evan hesitated only a moment before taking it. The chamber witnessed something no record had ever shown. A queen and a human standing as equals. Across the empire the announcement spread. Not of marriage, not of conquest, but of partnership. Some worlds resisted, others welcomed the change. Yet one truth became impossible to deny. The empire did not fall, it steadied. Months later, Evan stood aboard a human ship preparing to depart. Queen Salthera stood beside him, watching the stars. "You will be missed," she said. "So will you," Evan replied. She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "You changed my people without demanding anything." Evan smiled softly. "Humans do that sometimes. We show up, care too much, and refuse to pretend we don't." She inclined her head. "The galaxy will remember this moment." "Maybe," Evan said, "but I hope what it remembers most is that power listened." As the ship lifted into the stars, news traveled faster than light. Across countless systems, a quiet idea took root, that humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they reminded empires of something they had forgotten. That leadership shared is leadership that lasts. And somewhere in the vast dark, the galaxy learned a new truth. Never underestimate a species that can change the universe.